So now that the new year is starting, just one thing that I gotta ask about. What will Pokemon be like this year? So now that Scarlet and Violet have come out, we've entered the so-called limbo. Generally, the longest time we'll go out with a new mainline Pokemon game, or at least as of recent with the move towards the Switch. But we know Pokemon like surprising us, right? Well, let's go through all the possibilities of what they can do this year, starting off with a second version. Now this is the most classic one. You know the deal. We got a new Pokemon game, and then they polish it up in a second version of it. Think of Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. Radiant Scarlet and Ultraviolet confirmed? Maybe. And while it's definitely possible, I feel like they have abandoned this approach for something introduced last generation. Crazy that I get to say that now. AKA DLC. Now, DLC is a fun subject to touch on, and that is because it can go in so many ways. So many ways that I may not even mention the type of ways in my examples. Because, for example, where would it be based off of? What type of DLC? How many new locations? Are we gonna get new Pokemon added into the game like we did with Sword and Shield? We got first introduced to DLC with Sword and Shield's Isle of Armor and Crown Tundra being based off of apparently the Isle of Man and Scotland respectively, or so assumed. This starts making you think, where would a Paldean DLC, where would the Scarlet and Violet DLC come into the picture? Would it be based off of, let's say, Kalos, the southern part, or since as you may know that in real life, the north of Spain and the south of France, which Paldea and Kalos are respectively based off of, connect to each other. So, many people have theorized that on top of Paldea, there is a Kalos region just to be explored in a DLC. But again, I feel like this, personally for me, that sounds pretty unlikely since I don't think Pokemon would really want to do the second generation type of thing, unless if they actually do that, maybe that's sort of backing up my theory where I predict that Johto will be the next remake. It'll sort of pull parallels with that, but I think that's a bit thinking too much into it. Like, it's possible they'll do it. Like, I'm not gonna say that it's impossible, you know, but I feel like it's just unlikely because I feel like they want to make each generation more unique, and I feel like they wouldn't really want to do that. So I feel like if I were to have to guess, maybe it's going to have more like Portugal elements or other Mediterranean elements thrown into the mix. That is, of course, if we do get a DLC. Then the question is how many. This is really in the air. Last time it was 2, so maybe they'll do 2 again. It's really hard to tell, especially because of the timing of the releases during Generation 8. That it was like a sort of weird time, so it's hard to really say what from that generation can we really take to the next. So I feel like Generation 9 is sort of gonna set the trend, I feel. But I feel like DLC is a solid possibility. Next, we have the possibility of a sequel, and we've really only had this once, and that is with Black and White 2. These games took place 2 years after the original Black and White, and we had new gym leaders, new stories, new characters, returning characters, all types of things, and even new areas. So I mean, it's possible that we can see, let's say, similarly to a second version, a literal sequel. I think if they want to throw a curveball, it's very possible that they'll do this, because I have a feeling that like most people aren't really expecting that. I feel like people are probably just expecting DLC and then maybe some type of remake, whether it be Legends or whatever, coming afterwards. Then again, people aren't really talking about it right now since Generation 9 just came out, so gotta wait and see. But mainline games aside, what will it look like for spin-offs this year? Except this year, Pokemon has been going on a track for releasing at least one spin-off title every year for quite a while now, and it was expected that this year would be no different. But instead, 2022 had no spin-offs, or at least at the moment, unless they just want to randomly release a spin-off, because I'm still recording this like by the beginning of December, so who knows what may happen, but I doubt it. So yeah, there have been no spin-offs this year, and that's a curious thing, because then you notice, why has there been a lack of information on Pokemon Sleep? But on a serious note, there has been a lack of information, so I do wonder, are we finally going to get like a normal spin-off game this year? Will it be a remake type of thing? Will it be a port type of thing? Because we have been getting ports. I don't think that they would really want to do 2 years without a spin-off, especially now that we're getting into what I like to call the limbo period. Even though in the past, it would normally be like a sequel to the main game. So let's say you would have, I don't know, Sun and Moon and 2016, and then in 2017, Ultra Sun and Moon. And with, let's say, X and Y, I think ORAS came out like a year later. So they have technically on track, like they technically have been coming out just a year later. But I feel like now on the Switch, they may be wanting to take more time. But again, that could just be exclusive to Generation 8. So we really got to see what they're going to do this year. I feel like if it's DLC, then it's not going to really be surprising, and that's what makes me feel like it's possible that we won't get DLC, or they may. Okay, here's the thing. Basically, Pokemon has this motto where they just want to always surprise us, right? You could read that in many interviews where they're like, they want to surprise us fans, and I think they do that very well. But the point is, a DLC is now predictable, and knowing them, they likely want to do something different. So that does make me wonder, like, let's say maybe we'll get a remake this year, or I don't know. It's very hard to tell. But back onto spin-offs, I feel like it's possible, probably not a remake, they really don't do that, but maybe a new type of addition to a remake, such as like Pokemon Ranger, or maybe one of the Wii games, because I took a poll and I see that the 3D battle simulator games, such as Battle Revolution Stadium, and I also added in retrospect also XD Gale of Darkness and games like that into one section, and that got the most votes, followed by Mystery Dungeon, a new type of spin-off, and Pokemon Ranger, and then Pokepark. And I definitely think spin-offs in the series have a lot of love for them. I mean, Pokemon New Snap sold like 2.4 million. The Mystery Dungeon series has sold 16.86 million. There definitely is a lot of fans for these games. So yeah, the only things that I could really think of for this year could possibly be a Scarlet and Violet second version, a sequel, a remake, DLC, and who knows what type of spin-off. It's really all up in the air, but I sort of just wanted to go through my thoughts on it and sort of just recap what can possibly be an option for this year with Pokemon. But please let me know what you guys want from this year's Pokemon, all the releases. Like, what do you want to see from the franchise this year? Because I really want to know. And please let me know what you guys think about my predictions, and let me know if you think that they may go with a different route, and maybe they will create new options or really anything. It's, again, all up in the air, so I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, maybe give it a like, and if you liked me, maybe subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and bye!